Michigan falls in Champaign to the Fighting Illini. Michigan visiting the number 14 team in the country. And as you might expect, game number 25 on the season for the Maize and Blue, and Michigan, a big underdog on the road in Champaign, taking on the number 14 ranked Fighting Illini. And this game was a one-possession game with under 5 to play in the first half. First 15 minutes of the game, Michigan looking pretty good, making some plays, but then with under 5 to play in the first stanza, the Illini go on a 16-2 run, and they were up by 18 at the break, 47-29. Michigan did not make a three in the first half, actually, until just over a minute left in the game. Michigan finally hit a three. Will Cheddar did, so they break that streak, but Michigan goes down in this game by 29 points, a final of 97-68. Welcome in. We're here after every Michigan basketball game. In this one, Michigan was a heavy 16-point underdog. And for the first 15 minutes, they hung in there, and then that was it. Terrence Shannon Jr. was great. He was, if you thought about it, if you watch Michigan has a hard time stopping the ball and cutting off a good drive, somebody that can really get to the basket, and Shannon really can do that. And then Shannon showing it from both the ability to drive, put it on the floor, and then also showing his outside game and his range as he was knocking down three ball after three ball. And in one sequence, when you knew it was the game, it was down in the right corner, bang, 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 three ball after three ball. And that was that for Michigan, who has a record of now 3-11 in the conference, and they're looking up at everybody in the Big Ten. And it's been over 50 years since Michigan has finished last in the Big Ten, and they will try to avoid that the rest of the way. You say, what are they? That's the they're trying to do anything, positive that you could look for, but that would be on the list of things that they would want to do or want to avoid, being in last place in the Big Ten. Looking at the box score, going through the players, I'll tell you what jumped out to me. Terrace Reed Jr. was 5 of 14 from the floor. At times, Terrace Reed Jr. attacking the basket, low post, throwing some moves on, throwing some dunks down. Doesn't look half bad. He had 13 points in this game, but he has to get his footwork under control. Once in a while, you can get called for a travel. He gets called for traveling every game, and multiple times in the first half getting called for he's going too fast. And he's just has to correct that. Too many turnovers that way. He had 3 turnovers tonight, too many, and he has to correct that. TW2, not too bad of a stat line, led Michigan with 17 points and 5 of 8 from the floor and knocked down 7 of 9 free throws. Not bad there. Kamwa had a nice bounce back game as he got into double figures with 13 points. Namari Burnett was decent early, but you look overall, 2 of 6 with 6 points. That's not going to get it done. And Jalen Llewellyn is in a tough spot. Yeah, he had 4 points in there, obviously, for Doug McDaniel, who's doing the wild road suspension thing. So it's forcing Llewellyn into action. And you could tell Jalen tries really hard, but even tonight in the first half, he had a nice steal and he was taking it coast to coast, but he got to the other end and then he just, threw some wild shot up, and it looked like the last place team against one of the better teams in the Big Ten. And that's what it was. Will Cheddar hit a late 3 to boost his stat line a little bit, 3 of 4, 8 points for Cheddar. Trey Jackson had 6 points, had the play of the game for Michigan as he, what did the announcer say, caught a body on a jam as he took it the length of the court and punched it down with his left hand. That was the highlight for Michigan. Stephen Bardo, the former Fighting Illini guard, saying that was one of the better dunks that he's seen in all of the Big Ten this year. George Washington III, and Michigan fans saying, look, why not play the true freshman if you're going to lose anyways? I mean, you wouldn't say that to the coach, but you understand the point about let's see him out there. And he did get a little run in the first half. And I'm not going to say he looked lost. If you looked at the stat line, you'd say, wow, that's no good. And it wasn't. 0-3 from downtown, 0-4. He did have a nice sequence. He had a steal, and then he threw a sweet long bounce pass to Cheddar for a jam, which was nice. But other than that, nothing to, in fact, absolutely nothing to write home about when it comes down to GW3 and Michigan. Some of the feedback in this one, P. Maximus is calling this the worst Michigan team ever. I've seen some pretty bad Michigan teams, P. Maximus. I think about a Brian Ellerby team when they had what's it Mike Gottfredson was their point guard. Poor Mike would be thrown to the wolves. It was up in East Lansing. He's taking on the Flintstones, and whoo, that team is the worst team that I have ever seen. I guess I'd have to go. What I want to do, start going player for player when it comes down to this team. Lance talking about Juwan Howard. Is there merit to fire Juwan to try to spark something for the Big Ten tournament? He asked, instead of delaying the inevitable, just rip the Band-Aid off. Well, Lance, this isn't the pros. Unless there is a situation with the coach, like we've seen in the past. He's had a few of those. Something off the floor. I would think that that would be the only way that Ward Manuel would do something before the season's over. When you think about trying to spark something, I don't think so. I mean, there's nothing that way. They are not that talented, and certainly there's not, like, I'm not absolving the coaches for anything. They put this thing together, and they haven't sparked anything for this team. They don't. Nothing that they're doing is working with them. They have no bench. They've got some yo-yo, like was hurt tonight. Jace is been out for a few games, but those guys aren't contributing anyways in really doing anything. But no, I would say no. There's that's not going to happen. When you say if there's merit, I would say there's not merit for it. If you thought that this team, if you watched last week, Michigan beat Wisconsin, and the announcer said, that's why the Big Ten is so sweet this year. Even the last place team can beat one of the top teams in the conference. That's a nice thing to say on the broadcast, but it's really not true. Michigan's not jumping up and biting anybody. I know that they did against Wisconsin. I know Wisconsin has lost 4 in a row. I think Wisconsin's a good team. I'm not taking anything away from that victory, but I don't see it. I don't see it. It's not like I'm sitting back thinking, oh my God, that would be the worst thing ever. But no, there's no reason to do that. And you say delaying the inevitable. I'm not sure that I would think that 95% of the fans are thinking like you, that after the season, but I think there could be the thought that because of the basketball situation with NIL and also with the transfer, that you had to think of that if you were watching Michigan and watching Terrence Shannon Jr. go for, what did he have, 34 tonight and 31, sorry. He would be in a Michigan uniform if Michigan had a transfer policy that could get players into the university to play some hoops, but they don't. They have a tougher one, and we all know that. So those are two things that work against you. They're the two things that'll work against any coach that's in there. Um, right. I say this after every game, but there it is. That's it. P. Maximus is saying there's no improvement. We all see the weaknesses. That's coaching. Culture is shook. No one wants to play for Michigan. Stauskas called it out. Yeah, yeah. There is nothing there. Like, there's nothing to lean on with this. From that standpoint, you're right. There's nothing to look at this team, and you might want to say, well, you like Christian Anderson, the guard that's coming in. Sure, I mean, like, you like him. He's not a player though that you look at, you think, oh man, this is a guy that's going to turn the. Rarely do you even think about that. Like, that one player. I know one player can mean so much to a team, but Anderson's nice, but it's not somebody you look at and you're thinking, oh, this guy's going to be a guy that can turn the program around. The kid from Grand Rapids, Fat Brooks, Fat Brooks, or Connie Ruths, who's not signed but maybe will, could. He's their highest rated guy. That would be something that you would consider, but no, that's not enough. Where you say, "Oh yeah, why? You don't make a move there because of this great recruiting class." I don't. That's not something that you say. Let's see. Zarek is saying, in my opinion, why can't our staff get these guys to play seriously? I think that they get them to play for 15 to 20 minutes. Why can't they get them to play more than that? I think there's a combination of things. Number one is going to be talent. And I think they have just a limited amount of talent. They don't have anybody off the bench. If we really look at it, Terrace Reed Jr., he's been a disappointment overall. I was expecting a little bit more from him in his sophomore year. Too many turnovers, not consistent enough. TW2, Terrence Williams II, for a NCAA team, he would be a nice seventh, eighth man off the bench. Meanwhile, he's like Michigan's number one guy. Kamwa is he hasn't played well in a little stretch here. He's been Michigan's most consistent and best player. He's legit. But look, Namari Burnett, he's a backup on an NCAA team. NCAA tournament team. Jalen Llewellyn is somebody that I don't think would be in a rotation for a tournament team. And yet, he's had to start these last 5 road games because of the part-time suspension deal with Doug McDaniel. And they've got one guy coming off the bench, and that's Cheddar. I mean, Jackson is like, how many minutes does he play? Not many, and that's it. You don't have anything coming off the bench, and they tire out, and they've got one legit starter, and that is Olivier Kamwa. Now, if they had Doug McDaniel, they could have 2, and if I'm starting to talk about, if you have 5, well, then that would be different. But they don't have that. So that's why they don't play there. Henry is weighing in on conditioning and fundamentals, almost as if not having your strength and conditioning coach on your bench factored into the game. It's fair, Henry. It's not fun to say, but it is fair. Gavin talking about Ward's going to have to make a decision. The season is a big mess. A big mess. No question. Jonah wants a percentage for me that Juwan gets fired after this season. I would say the trajectory of this team and them finishing in last place and no real promise, even though I would say 60%. Right now. I don't know if that makes you feel better or worse, or it probably makes you feel worse, listening to me when you think it should be 100% and it's obvious And sometimes it is obvious to all of us, and how serious is Michigan about getting this basketball program on track? I was thinking about the John Beeline days and just how John Beeline actually is the perfect kind of coach. And I'm not suggesting that 71, 72-year-old John Beeline comes back for Juwan Howard. He wanted to go to the pros, and a lot of people have said, and I guess I tend to agree with them. They said they kept saying it. That he was, today's player that's looking for name, image, and likeness, and that wouldn't be something John Beeline wanted to deal with. I don't know. You have to deal with a lot of egos and stuff, even when he was here. It is different, so I get that part. But the thing with Beeline, why he would be someone, too bad he's not 60 years old and wouldn't want to come back, because he could pluck 3 stars from anywhere. You just think about, like, Trey Burke wasn't somebody that everybody was after. In fact, he was out there for anybody to take, and you just keep going. Karis LeVert, Nick Stauskas. You almost can just go down player for player for player that John Beeline. And actually, when John Beeline was the coach, you might have even been a little frustrated as a Michigan fan, saying, "Hey, why doesn't this guy take a swing for some of these like supers and some of these 5 stars and get them in here?" And instead of taking some 3-star from New Hampshire, but that was John Beeline. What an eye for talent and being able to bring guys in. Plus, he was way ahead of the curve in where the game was headed, with being able to shoot volume threes and the offense, and just everything there. And that's not where this staff is at, and where this program is at. They have more things to deal with here, and Ward Manuel needs to pull out a mirror and look at himself and really ask the tough questions. Like, and if the answer is it's going to be a continuation of Michigan is not going to be able to recruit, they're going to have their one arm tied behind their back, and they're not going to tweak their admissions policy. That's 2 hands behind their back. So they're just looking for a developmental team. Like, if that's the way it is, and I would say that is the way it's going to be. They're not going to change admissions. They're not going to change the NIL policy, where they start promising players money up front. I know this is the same stuff that I say after every show, but I don't believe that they're going to do that. So I don't believe that they're going to be able to get when needed an influx of talent in here. So you need to work on development and a long view with the basketball program, where you get a coach, if it's going to be Juwan Howard, where you look that he's going to build something that it's not going to be necessarily every year that you're going to be in the NCAA tournament. That's a harsh reality for this program. Now, look, most people don't want to hear that. They want Michigan. It's Michigan. They should be competing for clearly getting into the NCAA tournament this year. That's a bunch of hogwash, I could hear people saying. And I'm not going to disagree with you. I'm just saying that what the reality of the situation and what it looks like to me is. So it's not a home run that there's going to be a change, and there's issues if there's going to be a change. That's how I see it. So that's it. Jonah's talking about nobody's watching this team, which impacts the university's revenue. A lot of those tickets are bought. I tend to believe with you, Jonah, that might be the thing that will change things. And for that, you look at the remaining schedule. And I have it in front of me. So Saturday, Michigan brings in Michigan State. The place will be packed. Unfortunately, there will be a lot of green and white in the Chrysler Center. They will be looking to take over Ann Arbor, the Spartans will. And it could be ugly there. That's one of those where if their Michigan was going to win one more game this year, just one, this is the one that you would want them to win, obviously. And so don't get routed. Hang in there and don't let the Chrysler Center turn into the Breslin Center. Not much they can do when Purdue comes in. Like, I think that they're going to get beat. Just how bad? Now that we look here, Michigan's only has 3 games remaining at home. Michigan State, Purdue, and then they have the 2 games in margin. Off the top of my head, who are they? They go to Ohio State, and then they host Nebraska. Now that last game against Nebraska, yeah, it gets ugly in there. There you go. Jesse's talking about if it's not going to be the basketball coach, then it should be the AD. Let him do it. Not even a CBI. That's not that's lower than the NIT, right? Is that what that is? Jesse is looking at a losing streak to end the season, hopefully culminating in Howard's immediate dismissal. Yeah, I can't tell people. I know by watching football this year that there are friends of mine that are like Michigan State fans, and they were, I'm everybody rooting against. So there's absolutely no way, that they would keep the coach. I could see that a lot of Michigan fans feeling that way. I mean, that's part of it when it gets ugly, and it is ugly right now. So we'll see how that ends up going down. Like they lose out, it'd be pretty bad. Have we ever been in the cellar of the Big Ten in any sport, men or women? The last time that Michigan basketball was in the cellar was the year Kezzy Russell left to go in the pros. That would have been the mid-'60s. So we're talking about, I think, 66, 67. Over 50 years ago, 58 years ago, almost 60 years ago, the last time that Michigan basketball was dead last in the Big Ten. I would have to look for the women. Actually, as a broadcaster for the women's team for the 2005 and 2006 team, I think they only won one Big Ten game. So those 2 years that I was there, 0 for the 1 year. So I would say off the top of my head, you could check me on that on the women's side. 2005, I think, was on the women's side. If there have been other sports, I don't know. Let's think of, I don't know. Off the top of my head, that's not a fun one to go through. There it is. Jonah's talking about leading candidates for linebacker and DB coach. Yeah, join us tomorrow, Jonah. The schedule that I just showed you was brought to you by the Maize and Blue Reviews Good Afternoon Michigan Football and Basketball, which you can hear 3 times a week on the feed you're watching right now, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Tomorrow, Wednesday, we will be talking about the candidates for linebacker and defensive back. We will get to all of that tomorrow. That's it. Kind of the same stuff. Juwan Howard just a couple games ago was saying same old song, and that's what it was tonight. Michigan hung in there for 15 minutes, and then a big run by the Fighting Illini put the home team up by 18 points at the break, and they go on and win it by 29, a final of 97-68. Michigan, they fall now on the year, if you're keeping track, and you are. to 8-17 overall and 3-11 in the Big Ten. Meanwhile, it's almost a reversal. You look at the number 14 Fighting Illini; they're 18-6 and 9-4 in the Big Ten. Michigan will host Michigan State coming up this Saturday. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Have a great night. And we will talk with you tomorrow on Good Afternoon Football and Basketball. See ya.